email that our car insurance is going up $71 a month. And how many jobs are we supposed to have? Like, I can only do so much, and it's just like bills keep going up and keep going up, and I went to college and I got my degree and I did the right thing and I did the thing I was supposed to do, and now it's just like, I don't know. I know I'm blessed and we have a roof over our head and we have groceries, but it's like, as soon as we start to catch up, something breaks, or we have to fix something, or a bill pops up, or we have to go to the hospital. I don't know. It's just, I'm really stressed. I don't know. I don't even know why I'm filming this. I just want other people to know that, like, you're not alone. I don't know. Yeah. I hope it gets better. The economy is just kicking my ass.
We want to talk about how the mental health toll inflation has taken on so many people. Everything from groceries to gas prices and, of course, those interest rate increases. Psychotherapist and 90s wellness expert Dr. Heather Hans joining us this morning. Dr. Heather Hans, thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
This is important, and I think so many people are dealing with this right now. So one of the big questions, of course, that we're asking is how can people have hope when, they might be struggling so much right now?
Absolutely. I mean, I understand. I'm a single mother in this economy. I've never been so stressed financially. And the thing with depression is that it impairs your ability to see color and your sense of smell, and most importantly, your critical thinking ability. So that can lead people to dangerous levels of hopelessness. And that has ripple effects on families and also on employers, because they pay a big cost for mental health issues of employees. So it creates this mass loop of suffering in the society. And so the treatments used to help people with depression really focus on changing your beliefs about yourself and what's possible in your future. And so I just want to turn to viewers and ask you to close your eyes and think about everything that you've gotten through in your life and believe that you will get through this too and be stronger for it.
It's really that spark of hope that gets people through things like this. Absolutely. Both of us, we talked about our struggles on air before as well. I think so many people right now going through this.
The drought this year has taken a toll on farmers' mental health, and a study done by UNL shows that rural Nebraskans are more pessimistic than they've been in the past decade. Channel 8's Mackenzie Johnson spoke with a local farmer about the struggles many are facing.
Paula Peterson says with the unpredictable nature of the business, many farmers can feel helpless when things go wrong, and some don't feel like they can reach out and ask for help.
I don't know if we've had a normal year in I don't know how many years. And I think that's the new normal. You just have to roll with it, whatever comes.
A UNL study was released that shows Nebraskans who live in rural areas have had a challenging last 4 years. This year, the study found that rural Nebraskans' optimism about the future has declined. In the Midwest, farmer suicide rates are higher than many other occupations. Peterson says there are several factors that add into that.
We don't have control over the weather. We don't really have control of the prices, equipment prices, supply chain issues. There are all so many things that are out of our control, but we just have to keep going day by day.
And recently, the drought has added into stress as well. For some farmers, these problems can feel isolating.
For us, we always have somebody to talk to. I think you've got some guys that try to do it all on their own, and those are the ones that, as a neighbor, you really need to be looking out for them.
Money is a major stressor for farmers too, as farm equipment can cost hundreds of thousands as new technology comes out. And Peterson says even maintaining equipment can be costly.
Honestly, anytime we go into a service, we're walking out with a $20,000 bill. And that's bare minimum.
Peterson says farmers need to be honest with those around them and ask for help.
Talking to your neighbor, know your neighbor, Know when you're seeing signs of stress, and don't be afraid to have those conversations. Nobody wants to have those conversations. Nobody wants to know, how are you doing? And then have somebody tell you it's bad, you know, but you have to stop and listen.
Youth mental health has significantly declined in the past few decades.
I think that we really are gaslighting young people. We're telling them they should be fine. We made it through. You know, this is just the teen years. It's hard. But they're facing a different world than we did.
So what's going on with young people's mental health? While the COVID-19 pandemic caused an increase in mental health issues, rates of depression, anxiety, and suicidal thoughts had already been on the rise during the previous decade.
In 2009, about 14% of young people were reporting serious thoughts of suicide while they were in high school. And by 2019, it was about 19% of young people. Suicide deaths were also increasing over the past 2 decades. So going into the pandemic, we were already seeing pretty concerning trends.
This is Dr. Laura Erickson-Schroth. They're a psychiatrist and the chief medical officer at the JED Foundation, a nonprofit dedicated to improving youth mental health. Through her work as a psychiatrist and review of available data, Dr. Erickson-Schroth has seen these trends worsen since the pandemic hit.
We were seeing that in a lot of studies, the rates of anxiety and depression for young people were doubling. In the past year, from 2020 to 2021, which is when we have the latest data, suicide rates for young people 15 to 24 actually increased by 7%.
It's clear that young people are in crisis, and that's due to a number of societal elements that are out of their control. One such factor is the prevalence of social media.
We know that comparisons, especially among teen girls, can really be detrimental to their mental health. They're seeing, every day on the news in their social media feeds, wars around the world. They're seeing social injustice in our country and the fight against it. They know about the climate crisis, and they're dealing with kind of existential issues at a really young age. We also know that these increased amounts of data that young people are exposed to are changing the way their brains work.
Still, for all the harm they do, social media platforms can help young people's mental health.
There's some really positive things about social media. So there are young people, especially in rural areas, who don't have access to in-person interactions. They may be LGBTQ, they may be youth of color in white towns, and having social media and being able to access other young people as well as adults who can influence them in positive ways and provide community is great.
That access to outside support systems is especially important for those who experience higher rates of anxiety, depression, and suicide.
American Indian and Alaska Native youth are at increased risk of suicide compared to other groups. We also know that Black youth have the fastest increasing rates of suicide among youth in our country.
One of the things that we observed prior to the pandemic was that for African Americans, suicide death rates were increasing, and that included for young children, those aged 5 to 11.
This is Dr. Rita Walker, a psychologist and researcher, as well as the author of The Unapologetic Guide to Black Mental Health.
Racism and discrimination are connected to all of these different mental health outcomes, whether we realize it or not. And interestingly, racial microaggressions have showed a consistent connection to decreases in cognitive ability and function and performance.
I would say that one of the biggest systemic issues facing our society right now and facing youth right now is systemic racism in our country. Young people of color are seeing on TV and on their news feeds people of color being beaten on the street by police. And this is really affecting and traumatizing them.
Despite being at greater risk than their white peers of experiencing anxiety and depression, youth of color don't have equal access to care and treatment. In addition to youth of color experiencing mental health issues at increased levels, LGBTQ+ youth also face high rates of depression and anxiety.
A lot of research shows that LGBTQ young people tend to have about 3 times the rate of suicide attempts of other young people. And they're getting messages from all around them. They're seeing the Don't Say Gay bills. They're seeing the bans on treatment for young people who are trans, who are looking to transition. And there have even been families that I've known who have moved states to get away from, the kinds of discriminatory laws that are happening.
Where young people live also matters.
We know that rural youth actually are at 2 times the risk of suicide as urban youth. And there are a number of factors having to do with that. One of them is isolation, and the other is that they have increased access to lethal means, to guns.
Research shows that suicide rates are lower in states with stricter gun safety laws.
We also know that finances really affect people's mental health. So if you look back during times of recessions, there are increased suicide rates, and studies show that when people are in sort of dire financial straits, are in debt, they have higher rates of depression and suicidal thoughts.
And why are prices for everything going up while all of us make less money than ever?
Greed. The answer is greed. We are all suffering because the wealthy and the corporations are so damn greedy! Excuse me.